Now, on Enough Said, with K-Fans Dan Barrero and Justin Guard.
It's all fake news. It's phony stuff. It didn't happen. It was a group of opponents that got together, sick people, and they put that crap together.
Welcome to another edition of Enough Said. My name's Dan Barrero. Justin Guard is with me as usual, and Lori Fisher in the control room to get us started. Hi, Lori.
Hi, guys. You just heard him there. President-elect Trump has his first official news conference of 2017 since he was elected president. And as we know, he also likes to tweet. One of his latest ones, totally made up facts by sleazebag political operatives, both Democrats and Republicans. Fake news, Russia says nothing exists. He's talking about classified documents that Russian operatives may have harmful information about Trump. Take a listen.
I think it was disgraceful that the intelligence agencies allowed any information that turned out to be so false and fake out. I think it's a disgrace. And I say that, and that's something that Nazi Germany would have done and did do.
Go ahead. Can you say categorically,
she's asking a question. Don't
Mr. President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you give us a question?
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Well, first
we've got 4 years of this. He's not even the president yet.
It's already, it's the ratings for news conferences
Through the roof.
are going to be, and that's what he'll remind people of.
On
'cause
Twitter.
He's about ratings.
On
It'll
Twitter.
be like, we've quadrupled the average rating for a news conference. Although he won't want to admit the real reason people are going to watch is sticks and gloves all over the ice, like, is a food fight going to break out? Can we thank Donald Trump first?
Sure. On what? Or for what?
His being so magnanimous to announce to us that he turned down a $2 billion offer from I think it was Dubai.
Yes.
That he could have taken.
Great guy. Good friend of his.
Honest to God. And
$2 billion.
He could have said yes. And you know what?
Turned it down.
He didn't. Awfully decent of him.
For love
right?
of country.
I would say. That was one of my little hidden highlights, too, that got lost because of all the other stuff. I don't even know where to begin on this deal. I would say the first thing would be if you're trying to convince people that the reports or whatever's in the briefing is not legit, I don't think the first thing you want to lead with is the Russians say it's BS.
Yeah, right.
The Russians say there's nothing to it. If you have any, again, awareness, you know that no one's going to believe that means any. It doesn't mean it's true, but it doesn't mean anybody's going to think that helps your credibility by saying the Russians they've checked off, they've had nothing to do with it.
And the best part about the tweet is then he wrote probably at the end of it,
Yes.
like period. So I don't even know if he really knows.
Right.
But like I said at the beginning, he's not the president yet. And that was his first press conference. And there's I think sometimes an inherent tension between a leader or political figure and the media,
Often.
as there should be,
Often,
right?
yeah.
Because the media is doing their job. The president shouldn't always like what the media is going to do.
Right.
But have you ever seen anything like that in a presidential news conference where the president-elect or the president is shouting down a member of the media, not a disrespectful member of the media generally, right? I mean, we typically think CNN reporters
Most
are
of the time,
are most of the time above board and are trying to do the right thing. It's going to be unbelievable to watch the next 4 years.
Well, but again, we sort of knew. I mean, everything was going to be different. Nothing was going to be the same. Certainly nothing was going to be as dignified. I do think we need to separate out a couple things, though. I don't know how legit the report is, and we should remember CNN did not reveal the details
like a lot of
in the
news
report.
organizations haven't.
Well, BuzzFeed, I guess, was the one that opened the door. BuzzFeed blew it, as far as I'm concerned.
Agree.
And they opened the door to Trump and his people being able to change the subject from whether there's what ties might exist between his campaign, for example, and the Russians. Nothing proven yet, but worthy of discussion. To they blew this because they put a bunch of unverified stuff in there. And BuzzFeed's explanation was embarrassing.
It was. For journalist people.
We're going to let the people decide.
Yeah.
No, what you do is you try to vet. And they admit they didn't even try. They said, we're just going to dump the stuff and we'll figure out later whether there's truth to it. And even according to the people who are aware of the report, the stuff has not been substantiated.
It has not been.
It may be true. It may not be true, but it has not been verified. That opens the door for Trump.
Do you think there are real files next to him, divesting himself of everything?
Probably not.
Okay, enough said. We have to move on. Meanwhile, President Obama says his farewell. He did it Tuesday night in Chicago. At one point, the crowd shouted 4 more years, and he just said, I can't do that. Here is the very end of his speech.
I'm asking you to believe, not in my ability to bring about change, but in yours. I'm asking you to hold fast to that faith written into our founding documents, that idea whispered by slaves and abolitionists, that spirit sung by immigrants and homesteaders and those who marched for justice, that creed reaffirmed by those who planted flags from foreign battlefields to the surface of the moon, a creed at the core of every American whose story is not yet written. Yes, we can.
So,
Little different.
it's over.
It is.
And it was a good speech. At times I thought it was a great speech.
Per usual for him, right?
But
he's very good at that.
There's the rub. I think he's always been better at speech making than he necessarily has in selling his agenda and getting the biggest criticism I continue to believe is legit on President Obama is, and I've heard this from some old-style Democrats, is he didn't like the rather unsavory process of rolling up your sleeves and talking to people.
Getting in the muck.
And getting in the muck and bringing them in. And you can say schmoo, whatever term you want to use for it, there's a process, and you got to love it. Bill Clinton loved it. He enjoyed that part of it. And I think, look, part of this was obstructionism on the part of the Republicans. There's no question about that. I'm not breaking any new ground. But I do think the part that the Dems leave out sometime is his ability to bring people along and to work a room. And that's very different talent than being able to get up like he did in Chicago and give a terrific
Yeah,
speech.
it's actually kind of ironic that he can bring so many different people together like he did when he ran in 2008 and be able to get an entire room galvanized and bring people into the process that maybe never were, you know, whether it's young voters or minority voters or whatever. He clearly galvanized. That was a movement.
Absolutely.
I'm sure there's some Trump movement as well in 2016, but that was something that we had never seen before too, right? 8 years ago. But you are right. He was not good at the mechanics of it, I don't think. And we heard that from a lot of people the last 8 years. And he was probably too hands-off in a lot of things in terms of our enemies. We've heard that on the campaign trail. But then on the other hand, he got bin Laden, too. So it's like, so it's going to be interesting to see how he is remembered because of how he came in and then where he finished. But
well, there's a chance he could end up being. I mean, there's a chance Trump could end up being his best friend.
That's
in that
true.
regard. If it turns disastrous, and I think like a lot of people, it's either going to be surprisingly brilliant or it's going to be sticks and gloves all over the ice where we're going, oh my God, what has happened? And if it's the latter, then he's going to look even better. And personally, his poll numbers are good. They continue to be good. The president.
Yes.
The problem has been, but in the results in terms of how the Democrats have done while he's been in office, well, that record's not so good. And then you're back to how much are they associating him with the rest of the Democratic policies, because a lot of people, the Democrats have lost a lot of ground.
They have.
Enough
certainly
said.
in the most recent
When
election.
you said he could be his best friend talking about Trump, but Trump, people are also saying, was possible because of the last 8 years, so it goes both ways.
Talking about best friends, next up in a surprise ceremony, President Obama bestows the highest honor possible to Vice President Joe Biden. It is the first and only time President Obama has given the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and it was emotional for everybody. Take a listen.
For the final time as president, I am pleased to award our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Wow.
That's a moment, right?
It is. Well, it is, and what it looked relatively unscripted, because that's sort of what we're looking for, right? I don't know how much he knew. I mean, he knew he was going to be honored, but that was what made that so, I think, special for whether you like Biden or don't, or respect him or don't. I think that was what came across there, right? Was that, wow, I mean, this was genuine emotion from somebody who may have thought the president was there to honor him, because I think it was his last talk, his farewell address kind of a thing, but that he didn't know that was coming.
It's and President also said we've got the internet now for one more bromance cheap shot. He said that you would have a better memory of this than me, but it seems like
that sounds like a cheap shot.
Well, that could be a cheap shot a little bit, but the bond between the two of them seems unbelievable. First of all, and of course, when you go through 8 years, and Biden was an elder statesman compared to the young senator from Illinois, so I'm sure he used him for counsel on basically everything. So I'm sure the president-vice president bond is always pretty strong. But sometimes it's not, right?
No,
sometimes you're bringing in
it's a
people,
marriage of convenience.
Yeah, for weaknesses that you have.
Each other.
And I think, but this one, man, has seemed genuine from the beginning. And the regret of 2016 for me is always going to be what would have happened if Biden did decide to jump in. Because
I'll answer it. He wins.
I think you're right.
He wins. I don't think
that might be his regret too.
Because Biden, he had his Grandpa Joe moments and a couple of the sound bites, and whether he's being a little too friendly to a couple of women in photos, that kind of thing. But I don't think, in my mind, there's much question that, which goes back to, I still don't think it was the Russians who turned the election. I think the Clinton baggage, which Biden wouldn't have, his ability to articulate the populist message,
and his speech at the
convention a lot better,
was
even
great.
though he's been on the inside. I think.
Some of that money has already been paid for, but we'll wait and see what the auditor comes up with, and we'll look at all of that.
I think it makes it even a worse argument that everybody else is doing it, but it's being owned by the people of Minnesota.
Welcome back to Enough Said. Members of the Minnesota Stadium Facilities Authority testify at the state capitol on the 2 state-owned luxury suites at U.S. Bank Stadium. If you remember, the suites are supposed to be used to impress potential clients, but instead many guests were relatives of MSFA members. And then this week, the Star Tribune reporting that food served to guests in those suites cost taxpayers more than $32,000. Dan.
Well, none of us are shocked that the earlier
estimates
for how much each person needed to pay on the basis of the food that was there might have been a little low.
Kelm Helgen's daughter paid $20 for the hot dog and the Coke.
Hank paid $40. Her husband, Hank Helgen, I think. No, look. And I don't like the everybody does it one because a comeback, because I think, at least for me, from a perception standpoint, the distinction is these suites. Well, first of all, I don't think anybody even knew they got suites. Like, well, the authorities got suites? Wait, that's a nice part of the deal.
I would assume that they would.
Really?
But go ahead.
Okay,
yeah, I
so
would. I would assume that they would.
But then it's, okay, we get it. You got to sell stuff. So bring people in to sell. And then very quickly we come to find out, we had a lot of relatives in and a lot of buddies.
And we work hard, and we got to see them.
And none of them have ever put in for overtime.
No.
So, I mean, they want to be rewarded for their hard work. To me, that is very different than if at a different stadium, a business has a suite and they bring in a legislator or whatever. Now, we can say that's not great, but to me, from a perception standpoint, there's always, I think, the assumption that, well, it's business is business.
Right.
And they invited them in. They paid for the suite. This is supposed to be the people's stadium and the people's suite to a degree. And that's why I think it's bad form to say, well, I don't understand why everybody's getting all up in arms about this. This has been done at stadiums as long as we know.
Another example of the actual act of it never really bugged me. I know it is kind of unseemly.
Was it the cover-up?
Well, the cover-up and the explanation, and then, like you said, the cost that they figured out. Well, it's like $150 face value for the ticket in a regular place. And then, we got some food, got some hot dogs and some nachos and the Diet Cokes. And so we ballparked that at about $37. That was the most embarrassing part of this whole thing because business does happen. And are there things that happen that a lot of people don't like or don't understand? Probably. But the way they tried to get out of it, I thought, was much, much worse.
If you're working for the authority, allegedly you're working for us, and to an extent, we like to think.
And you're getting a lot of money for that.
You're presiding over this thing, and so you're supposed to be sort of the gatekeeper. And that, to me, is what's very different than a company bringing people in and saying we're gonna have a couple of big shots in.
Okay, we have to leave it there. Let's talk hockey. The Wild scored 7 goals against Montreal. The team is on fire. Ryan Suter says everyone is contributing, and he's one of 3 going to the All-Star game later this month. Justin?
A lot of fun to watch him right now, and I do think it is sustainable because they've got a great goaltender, Dubnyk, who's going to be in the All-Star game. They defend well, which we know has always been important for the Wild. And I really like what Boudreau has done in terms of he doesn't care who you are. The biggest criticism of Yo and other coaches were the veterans, who are important parts of the team.
Yep.
Basically got to do whatever they wanted, right? If they wanted to play power play, they were playing it. They wanted to do penalty kill, they were doing it. If they wanted to be the first-line center, that's the position they were going to play. And there was never any ability to move. What Boudreau's done is, I really don't care what your contract is. I don't care what your history is. If you're not playing well tonight, I'm not going to put you where you think you should be. And I think that does 2 things. It makes sure everybody's on the same page, first of all, and the players have to perform. But it also lets the guys know that maybe are in the background. Right. Hey, if you play, I'm going to play you. Even if you're making, if you're on a 2-way contract and you were in Iowa last night, if you're going to come up and produce for a week or two, I'm going to let you play. And I think that has worked extremely well so far.
No, it's a great point, and it goes back to the hire itself. He brings the cachet of a guy who's at least regular season. He's had some playoff issues.
Sure.
But regular season has been outstanding, has been around, and so he doesn't. You can question him all you want. He doesn't give a damn. He's already established in a way that a couple of the last two coaches probably weren't or didn't feel comfortable. They were more into the pecking order, and he is saying, "Yeah, I got my stars, but if at this night at the end of a game, there ain't going to be no tradition about who's out there for the last shift.
Right.
I'm going to put the guys out there who I think have earned it to that point, and that's got to be very liberating for everybody involved." Suter's playing time has been lessened, which people have said for a long time was an important step. And let's not forget, they're scoring.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can continue this, but they've done it offensively without depending on the guy that we all thought they had to have big scoring numbers from, Parisi. And I think part of that is what you just said. The young guys, who everybody's been waiting to take the next step, they feel more a part of this team.
They've been allowed to.
Because they've been given that opportunity, and they've taken full advantage of it. This is a really good hockey team.
And the mistake that people make with Boudreau, I think, at least I did, not knowing a lot, is that he's folksy, and he's charming, and he's got funny stories, and he'll even tell you he's kind of a goofy-looking dude, right? But don't mistake that charm and that folks for soft or being a player's coach. He is tough when he needs to be, and the way he does it.
Last night he ripped them. What was the score, 7-1?
Yeah,
and he ripped them after the game and said, we play like this weekend with our two tough opponents. We're going to be in trouble.
Ringside reporter guy, there was a national game last night. They were up 1-0. Said, what do you like about the start? They were up, and he said, nothing. I don't like any of it. Yeah. So I like his approach. I really do.
I agree.
Okay, enough said. New Gophers head coach P.J. Fleck is adding staff and running around recruiting. Are you impressed with his first week in office, Dan?
It's a Fleck Friday, by the way. I don't know if you know that. It's a Fleck Friday.
Am I allowed to offer anything but the greatest first week ever?
Like I said, don't call me for Rose Bowl tickets if you want to do it. We need to know who's in the boat now.
Now?
Do you have an or? Yes.
Oh, my God.
Why wait now? It's a big month. Recruiting.
Will you admit this much?
Maybe.
Will you just admit this much?
Maybe.
If at another school, if we were a little haughtier and a little better in college football, and at another school, this individual was hired and he had the first news conference and said the stuff he did and row the boat and all this stuff, will you admit and be honest, just like I'd like some Gopher fans to be honest, and say, yeah, I'd be doing some jokes. I'd be doing, oh, my God, give it a rest. Calm down a little bit. None of this stuff means you can be a great coach. If you'll admit that if it happens someplace else, that there'd be a lot more pushback, then I'll live with the honesty of the situation. But I don't believe it.
I think
we tend to do it. We tend to make our opinion on the basis of whether he's our guy or he's somebody else's guy.
Fans of other schools are teasing us because they're afraid.
They're afraid?
They've seen Fleckfluenza. They've seen what it's done at Kalamazoo.
That the Gopher monster has been unleashed.
It's been the sleeping giant that is Minnesota Golden Gopher football, sleeping for most of the last 50 years.
You're in over your head on this one. You couldn't,
I would agree with you that we would make fun of.
Doesn't mean
exactly, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that either side is wrong. We have no idea.
You know what I like?
What's that?
He's stealing a bunch of players from Western Michigan. I think, although
a handful.
Will they be successful here?
Yeah.
I have no problem with that decision.
It's a big boy business.
I know. And let's remember that means he's not a Boy Scout.
Yes, which is fine.
He's not a Boy Scout.
And even people I've talked to in the industry, coaching industry, that will say the same thing. It's like, look, he's fast talking, he's sharp, he's motivated. I don't necessarily like the guy personally because of things that he does like that. Puts him in the same category as basically every other football coach in the country, which I don't think is a bad thing. And so
you know what? It will be fun, I think, and different here. I don't think he's going to be afraid to get other coaches going.
No.
In the conference. I don't think he's going to mind. And that can be dangerous here,
as
we know, because we get flattened. But I don't think he cares. I think he's going to go about it. And if part of his deal is going to be, if I can tweak, I'll tweak. We do what we do, and we're not going to apologize.
And it might be exactly what the place needed. You know that I didn't want to see the last staff go. And especially I didn't like how the entire situation was handled when they were twisting in the wind basically for a week while Mark
Congratulations
tried to figure
to the school
this out.
president patting himself on the back in the Star Tribune story.
Sure,
by the way.
I'm sure that was difficult.
He probably needs a shoulder extender.
I'm sure that was difficult.
What a hero he made himself out
But
to
I've
be.
talked more about Gopher football in the last 7 days than maybe the last 6 years combined. That's how much.
Time for the lightning round. It sounds like an inside job. Several people charged in the Kim Kardashian scary robbery back in October in Paris. Her chauffeur was arrested but released, but a lot of people charged in this case. So it really did happen. Justin?
We said at the time, for whatever you think about the Kardashians And I don't think either one of us are as big a fan as Lori, who's, I'm sure, one
Lori's
of
obsessed
the
with
20 million Instagram followers that all the Kardashians have. You never want to see this happen to anybody, especially when it's people on the inside, like it sounds like, that it's people you're allegedly supposed to trust. Well, Lori will keep us posted because she has not missed a beat on this story.
Will
they get
keep
another
you
show out of
posted.
this? Did they already do a show about this?
About the missing ring?
Yeah, absolutely.
They teased it. I don't know when it aired, but they put it in.
She knows.
She knows. She's
Absolutely.
DVR.
I'm not obsessed, by the way. You just can't get away from it. A great start to the season for Gopher Hoops minus Wednesday night's game against Michigan. They're ranked in the top 25 for the first time in 4 years. But can they keep it up, Dan?
Well, that's the question. I mean, I think it was a disappointing game against Michigan State.
The way they
sure.
played, yep.
But the key is how you rebound from it, as we said. You can't let it become a 2 or 3 game losing streak. I think I've seen enough to believe that with the pieces they have, there's something intriguing that can happen here in basketball for the first time in a while. How close they are to really putting it together, I don't know. But you got to capitalize on the start to the season, and that means not letting this become a 3 or 4 game losing streak, because they got pushed around and they got squeezed a little bit by Michigan State.
Be ready for Patino versus Patino, round 2 of the NCAA tournament. You heard it here first.
I'm the guy who says they got to make the tournament
stories
this year.
The committee loves stories. I think it's going to happen.
Okay, next up, Target Field announces another big concert. It's Piano Man Billy Joel. He's playing on Friday, July 28th. Excited or disappointed about this announcement? There was a lot of people thought it was going to be Joel.
Well, and people, it amazes me. People get so disappointed by concert announcements. Like, we're Minneapolis-St. Paul. Everybody comes through here every couple of years, right?
Yeah.
It's so
well, not everybody, but a lot of people.
But a lot of people.
We're flyover.
Not anymore, though, because we have all the great venues. Yeah. You got the People's Stadium. Suites are available.
Some people just don't like us, though.
But so people are mad about the letdowns. Like, I don't understand negativity about a concert.
Does it always have to be a modern country guy? Is it always got to be one? It's like,
well, they mixed it up. Billy Joel's not modern country.
No. What I'm saying is that the disappointment is for a lot of people.
They want
another corn-owned country.
Kenny Chesney.
But it's not
really
even real country.
There.
Yeah, that's not even real country.
You're looking for Kenny Chesney.
There's always Def Leppard, Tesla, and Poison.
There's what you're waiting for.
Guns N' Roses, People's Stadium.
The San Diego Chargers will move to LA. This means LA will have a second team again for the first time in decades. Dan.
Well, it's pretty shocking, I guess. Although we knew San Diego's had some issues for quite some time. But so we go. The irony, of course, is we now have 2 teams in LA. And neither of them are as popular, apparently, as the Raiders, who are in Oakland and apparently about to go to Las Vegas. So does this all bode well for the National Football League? I don't know. But
Okay, 1 minute left.
It's kind of shocking, I think.
I'll get to this quick. The annual cost of raising a child is out, $233,610 if you had a baby in 2015. We're talking about newborn to 17 years old, daycare, food, everything. Like the picture, Justin?
I like it. There's Grayson. Yeah, he's looking at me and saying, I hope you got a raise this year because it's going to get ugly. Also, I noticed in the research that if your daughter likes American Girl dolls, it's going to be like $400,000 from 17. It's basically an extra $150,000 because of the American Girl doll factor.
We got an American Girl doll dress for our daughter herself that matches the,
well, you got to match.
The American Doll of the Year named Leah. It's on the way.
And I bet it is adorable.
It's not cheap.
I bet it's adorable. Okay, last up, the benefits of taking a cold shower every day. A financial planner writes in a blog that it's really hard to do. Hence, challenge yourself, guys.
Or
just jump out in the snow every morning.
Well, you've done a polar plunge, right?
I've done a couple of polar plunges.
I've never done a polar plunge.
Yes.
I'm gutless, I guess. I have done. I mean, look, you get on the road and you cover some games in some weird places, and sometimes the shower, like for Olympic Village, it doesn't always work.
Yep.
So I've done it, but I can't say I don't think it made me stronger.
If I shower after my wife, which I usually do, it's always cold anyway.
It doesn't make any
run
difference.
out of hot water, so I have no choice.
So
I've been doing this for the last.